After the wedding, the house grew quiet again. The gifts were stacked in corners. The flowers dried in their vases, turning from bright to soft. Life went back to ordinary days. I have always believed ordinary days are where love proves itself. On a Sunday morning, I met Lena's parents at the market. It was early. The stalls were still waking. The fish lay on ice like silver leaves. The father waved from the fruit stand. He held a bag of oranges and said, "Sweet ones today." I smiled. "We will see." We walked the rows together. He liked to compare prices. I liked to watch people. The mother asked the bread woman for a small loaf. I pointed to the one with the darker crust. "That one will keep longer," I said. She looked at me and nodded. No words, but a shared thought. These are the small steps families take. We stopped for dried herbs. The seller recognized me. She pressed a little extra thyme into my bag and whispered, "For your soup, Auntie." Lena's father saw that and smiled, not the tight kind, the open kind. He said, "You are well known here." I said, "I have asked questions here for years." Then I added, "Questions make friends." We carried our bags to a small bench under a tree. The father tried to take the heaviest one from my hand. I did not let go. We both laughed at the tug. Then I let the bag slide to him. He sat out of breath in that way men hide with a cough. I asked if he was all right. He said, "Getting older is a slow surprise." I said, "It is also a slow mercy." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Back at my apartment, we cooked lunch. The kitchen is small, but 3 people can dance in it if they take turns with the stove. I cleaned the fish. The mother cut tomatoes, neat and even. The father washed the spinach but left soil in the sink. I did not correct him, I just rinsed the leaves again. Sometimes love is the second rinse. We sat at the table and ate in a quiet way. He complimented the fish. She asked how I made the broth clear. I told her the trick was patience and skimming. She said, "I am learning patience." She said it softly to herself as much as to me. Later that week, Lena came alone. She brought a small notebook. On the first page, she had written recipes from Ma. She sat at the table with her pen ready. I laughed. "You think it is science," I said. "It is more like listening." She smiled and said, "Then I will listen." We cooked ginger soup together. I told her when to add the slices. I told her how the sound changes when the heat is right. She leaned over the pot and closed her eyes. "It smells like your kitchen," she said. I told her it would smell like her kitchen too if she made it with care. She nodded. "I was afraid of your kitchen," she said. "It felt like a test." I said, "I was afraid of your living room." It felt like a show. We both laughed, soft and a little sad. She looked up from the pot. "That night," she said, "when I asked you to leave, I think I was trying to keep the peace. I thought if I moved one person out, the room would settle." I stirred the soup and said, "The room did settle, but not the people." She blinked. Then she said, "I am sorry." I said, "I know and I forgive you." I forgave you that night. She took a breath that sounded like setting down a heavy bag. We carried the soup to the table. We ate slowly. She took notes between spoonfuls. At the end, she closed the notebook and touched its cover like it was a small door. "I will make this for you next time," she said. I said, "I will bring the bread." A few days later, I visited Lena's parents again. There was a family birthday. It was for the cousin who had once said, "Vintage is brave." She opened the door with a wide grin and said, "Auntie Miriam." I paused at the word. It used to bother me. Now I heard it as a reach. I smiled and said, "Hello." Inside, the table was full. Children were chasing each other between chairs. The mother handed me a plate and said, "Please sit, you must try the noodles." The cousin came to me with a small plate of cake. She stood there a second too long, then she said, "I think I said something foolish when I first met you." Her voice was low. "I am sorry." I looked at her face. I saw a young woman who wanted to be kind. I said, "I have said foolish things too. We learn." She laughed and said, "I am trying." I said, "So am I." We ate the cake. It was a little too sweet. We did not mind. On another morning, the father called Daniel. His voice was tight in the way of a man who does not want to worry others. Daniel put the phone on the table and pressed speaker. The father said, "We lost a contract. It is not fatal, but it is heavy." I saw how he chose his words. Careful, measured, the way Lena once chose hers. Daniel said, "Can we come by?" We went to their shop. The shelves were neat. The air smelled of cardboard and ink. He sat at the counter and looked smaller than usual. I made tea in a mug that said "Best Dad" in cracked paint. It must have been a gift from long ago. He wrapped his fingers around it like it was a small heater. "I thought I had done everything right," he said, and still, he did not finish. I know that sentence. It has lived in my mouth too. I said, "Sometimes we do everything right and something still slips. Life is not a contract, it is a kitchen, we adjust the heat." He looked at me surprised, then smiled. "Adjust the heat," he repeated. "I can try that." He paused, then his voice went very soft. "I wanted to give my daughter a path with fewer stones," he said. "Perhaps I put stones in other places without knowing." He looked at me. "I am sorry for my part." The words were simple, they were also heavy. I nodded. "Thank you," I said. "We are here now." He came to my apartment the next day with a toolbox. He fixed the loose cupboard door that had been hanging on one hinge. He tightened the screws on a chair that wobbled. He found the step that creaked and added a nail. "I should have done this earlier," he said. I said it held. "But now it will hold better." He nodded and patted the step like a friend. That afternoon, while we waited for Daniel and Lena to arrive for dinner, my head felt light. The room tilted in a slow, odd way. I sat down quickly. The father saw my face and said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Just a little dizzy." He wanted to call a doctor. I said, "No, no, let me sit." He called anyway. He did it kindly but firmly. At the clinic, Lena held my bag while I lay on the bed. She ran her fingers over the loose thread like it was a small worry bead. The mother sat on the chair with her hands tucked under her thighs like a child trying to be still. The father stood, then sat, then stood again. The doctor checked my blood pressure and smiled. "A little low today," she said. "Eat, rest, drink. Simple advice, the best kind." While we waited for the bill, Lena quietly took a needle from her wallet. It had a tiny travel sewing kit wrapped around it. She threaded a bit of gray through the needle's eye. Then she stitched my handbag where the thread had been loose for so long. Her hands were quick and careful. She did not say anything while she worked. When she was done, she placed the bag beside me. The loose thread was gone. In its place was a neat line. "I liked the thread," I said, half a joke. She smiled. "It will still be your bag," she said, "just a little stronger." The mother looked at me and said, "We are learning to mend." I held my bag and felt something settle, gentle, and deep. We walked out into the late afternoon. The light over the street felt warm. The father refused to let me carry anything. We argued for a moment with smiles. He won, I let him win. Days passed. On one, I opened my tin box and added something new. A small ribbon from the wedding bouquet. A tiny scrap of the blue dress hem I had shortened by hand. And a simple receipt from the clinic folded small. I looked at the older papers and the new ones and thought, this is a record of care. Not money, care, quiet, consistent. One evening, Lena called me. Can you come? She said. We tried your soup, but it tastes like water arguing with ginger. I laughed. I am coming. I took my bus card and my scarf and went. In their kitchen, I found a pot with timid steam. I tasted it. Then I added salt, not much, a little more heat, a few slices of onion. We waited together, standing close by the stove. The apartment felt different now, not like a showroom, like a home. The father walked in and hung his jacket on a chair. He kissed his wife on the head as he passed. It was the first time I had seen that, a small thing, a big thing. At dinner, they sat me in the seat by the window. The wind made the curtain move like a slow wave. We ate the soup and bread and cut fruit. Someone told a story about a neighbor who had kept a rooster in a city apartment. Everyone laughed, even the mother. It was the kind of laughter that carries people closer. After dinner, Lena stayed behind with me in the kitchen. She washed, I dried, she said, sometimes I wake at night and remember that I once asked you to leave. Her voice was soft. Then I go to the living room and sit on the couch and say to the air, stay, please. It is silly. I put the towel down and turned to her. It is not silly, I said. It is practice. We stood a while without moving. Then she said, I want to ask you something, hard but not in a hard way. I nodded. Ask. She looked at the sink, then at me. Why did you wear the old dress that day? I had known this question would come. I said I wanted to see your hearts. I wanted to know if you could be kind to someone who looked like she needed it. She swallowed. And, I said, you were kind sometimes, you were proud sometimes, you were afraid sometimes. So was I, she nodded. We are learning to be brave in the same room. A storm came one night and turned off the lights. The building sighed to darkness. The father found a flashlight and then a candle. The mother lit it and set it in a glass. The flame made the walls look like they were breathing. We gathered in the living room. No television, no music, only the sound of rain. I told a story about Daniel at 7, his hands in soapy water and the clatter of plates. The father told a story about Lena at 10, coming home with a prize ribbon and pretending it did not matter. The mother told a story about herself at 19, sewing a dress by candlelight because the electricity had gone out then, too. The power returned with a click, the room brightened, but for a moment we all wished it had stayed dark. The candle had made us sit closer, it had made us listen. Another Sunday we chose the park again. We spread a blanket and ate rice wrapped in banana leaves. Birds walked near our shoes, brave and quick. The father lay back and put his arm over his eyes. The mother braided a child's hair, not hers, a niece who ran up and asked. Lena leaned her head on my shoulder. Daniel stretched his legs and made a joke that was not funny, and we all laughed anyway. I looked around and thought, this is what we built. This is the room without walls. In time, new words came into our days. Can you help? Yes. I was wrong. Me too. Stay. I will. Small words, big doors. One afternoon, I visited their shop and found the father writing figures in a notebook. His pen paused. He said, I have been thinking about closing earlier once a week so we can have dinner together. Money is important. But I do not want to miss the life we are paying for. He looked at me as if asking a teacher. I said, I think that is wisdom. He smiled and said, then we will try. Later, the mother brought me a dress, not new, not expensive. A simple dress she had sewn herself from soft fabric in a warm color. I made this, she said, For you, I do not know if it will fit. I know your blue dress is your friend. Maybe this can be a friend too. I tried it on. It fit in the way good things do, not tight, not loose, just right for breathing. I looked at her and said, "Thank you." She straightened a tiny crease on the shoulder and said, "You are welcome." On a walk home from the market, I passed the building where I had once left with a small smile so I would not cry. I stopped at the doorway. The light in that hallway was still the same. I stood there and listened to the elevator hum. A young couple walked past me. The woman was upset. The man touched her hand and said, "Come inside." "We will talk." The door closed behind them. I sent a quiet blessing after them. May their conversations be kind. May their silences be warm. That evening Lena called. "Can you spend the night?" she asked. "We are painting the bedroom and there is a smell. The guest room is ready." I hesitated for a breath. There was a time when I would not have felt welcome. That time was gone. "I will come," I said. I packed a small bag, a nightgown, a toothbrush. The tin box, I do not know why I put it in. Maybe I wanted my small history near me. When I arrived, the guest room had fresh sheets. A sprig of lavender lay on the pillow. The mother had left it there. On the nightstand was a glass of water and a note in her neat hand. "Sleep well, family." I stood and looked at the word, family, simple letters, a big word. In the middle of the night, I woke to the soft sound of whispers, not tense. Just two people talking. I walked to the door and listened the way all mothers do. I heard Lena say, "I am glad she is here." I heard Daniel say, "She has always been here." I went back to bed and slept like a child. In the morning, we ate bread and eggs and drank tea. The father asked me if I would come to the shop later to help choose a new chair. "One that does not creak when a customer sits," he said. "We do not want our welcome to sound like a complaint." I laughed. "Then we will find one." On the way to the shop, I carried my handbag on my arm. I ran my fingers over the place where the thread had been. The stitches were small and neat. They were a reminder. We can mend what we once let fray. It will not look the same. It may be stronger. In the months that followed, we learned to celebrate small things. The first time the soup tasted right in Lena's kitchen. The day the father closed the shop early and came to the park without checking his watch. The moment the mother laughed without covering her mouth. The afternoon Daniel left the office on time and walked with me to the bus, not because I needed him to, but because we both wanted to. We also learned to hold each other in hard moments. When a friend of Lena's moved away without saying goodbye, when the father's back ached and he could not lift a box, when I had a cold that would not leave and everyone arrived with different remedies. Ginger tea, warm socks, a joke, a book. Presence is the best medicine. There was one more conversation I want to tell you about. It was a quiet one late after dishes before sleep. The mother sat with me on the balcony. The city hummed below. She said when I said marry up or down, I was trying to organize a world that frightens me. I thought if I placed everything, nothing could fall, but people are not shelves. I said people are hands. She nodded, yes, hands. We let go, we hold, we forgive. She turned to me, thank you for not leaving for longer than a night. I said, thank you for asking me to stay. I do not know what the next years will bring. There will be joys, I hope, and also losses. That is the shape of life, but I know this, we will sit at the same table. We will turn the heat down when the pot boils over. We will sew the loose threads. We will bring our small papers of truth when the moment calls for them. We will make room for each other to be wrong and to learn. If I could speak to the woman I was on that first day, with her faded dress and her plan to act small, I would say this. Trust slower, test less, tell the truth of yourself sooner. Watch how people grow when you allow them to, and grow with them. If I could speak to the girl Lena was at 10, holding her prize ribbon and pretending it did not matter, I would say, let things matter. Let people see your joy. They will learn from it. It will teach them to be gentle. And to you, listening now, walking into rooms that feel like scales, remember this. You do not have to shrink to find kindness. You do not have to wear costumes to measure hearts. Come as you are with your story, your old bag, your neat or messy hair, your hands that know work. Sit down, speak softly, listen strong, stay when they ask you to, leave only when you must. Return when the door opens again. We are all learning, we are all practicing, we are all mending something. We are all someone's family, even if we do not know it yet. I acted poor when I met my daughter-in-law's family and they laughed. Now when I meet them, I bring soup and they bring chairs and we laugh together. It is not a loud laugh. It does not need to be. It is steady. It is warm. It is enough.